In studio with us now, Executive Vice President and General Manager Nick Caserio. Nick, great to see you. How's it going?
Fellas, good to be here.
Well, congratulations on the victory. Big one this week with Denver. We'll talk about that, but can you review the San Francisco game a little bit for us, Nick?
Yeah, played the game that we wanted to play. I mean, Johnny and I talked a little bit before the game and some of the keys that we thought were important. We felt were important, and those kind of came to fruition. Ran the ball, were able to get some positive runs, had very few negative runs. Did a good job in a passing game, and then defensively, we talked about the running game and talked about having awareness of Christian, basically on every play, and we were able to kind of mitigate some of the runs. They made a few explosive plays there in a passing game. In a kicking game, we were able to kind of hold serve more than anything else. So took advantage of our opportunities, played good football. Honestly, there's still meat on the bone. There's some things we can certainly clean up, gave up a few explosive plays. 1 of 5 in the red area. So there's things that we can improve, that we can build on. But anytime that you're doing it off of victory, it's, puts you in a better spot.
Nick, whenever anybody talks about beating or playing the 49ers, you mentioned it, Christian McCaffrey pops up. I feel like there were a lot of things that went into slowing him down and keeping him under his marks and really just limiting his impact. In your opinion, what were the keys to being able to do that?
Yeah, the front did a really good job in the running game. We really didn't give them a lot of space. They really couldn't get the ball to the edge, so the defensive ends did a good job of setting the edge, forcing the ball back to the inside. And on the inside, we played with good positioning, good technique, and we're stout. He made some plays in the passing game, which he's almost a receiver. He got into space a few times. Tackling was important. You're not going to totally limit the player of that caliber over the course of a game, but we didn't prevent it from becoming such a huge part of the game where it kind of got out of hand. So it was a collective effort. Defense is about all 11 kind of doing the right thing, and that was a big part of, I would say, the end result.
Offensively, no sacks allowed. What went into that, Nick?
Yeah, I mean, the offensive line did a really good job. So I think we had a good understanding of kind of the front, where the issues were in protection. They pressured us. I mean, we saw multiple blitzes, and we were able to handle those blitzes, whether it was the front, the running backs were a part of that as well. Dario had a number of really good third down blitz pickup. And really, you're just trying to make sure that you just have enough time to kind of get the ball out of your hand. You're always going to have throws where the quarterback's going to be under duress. You're going to have to play from a little bit of a muddy or dirty pocket. But, I mean, anytime that you can keep the quarterback clean and the ball comes out on time and you know where to go with the football, then it leads to positive plays. So it's a collective effort. Everybody's involved in that. The offensive line's involved. The quarterback's involved. The running backs are involved. The tight ends are involved. Fisher's a tight end, even though he's an offensive lineman, but that was a part. I mean, he played, I don't know how many snaps as a jumbo tight end. So, I mean, overall, I mean, that's what good offense looks like. Like we talked about, I mean, we still can improve. I mean, 1 of 5 in the red area, those are scoring opportunities and scoring plays. And if we can put the ball in the end zone a little bit, then you might even see a bigger point differential.
One of the first things I asked you, Nick, in fact, it might have been the first thing, that there was no Nico, there was no Christian. So now you've got wide receivers that, number of rookies, a bunch of Cyclones, Braxton Berrios, who had not had a lot of game action, and yet those guys stepped up. A number of them had 5 catches, a few of them had 4. What are your thoughts about how the receivers stepped up in the void of Kirk and Collins?
Yeah, I mean, they did an outstanding job. I mean, everybody was very confident going into the game. So those are all good football players, and called Jared up from the practice squad, who's been in our program for a number of years. So honestly, nobody blinked an eye. The offensive staff did a great job. Ben McDaniels does a great job with that group overall. They were prepared. They were ready to play. They've all made plays when they were given opportunities. I mean, nobody's made more plays and done more to put himself in a position to make plays than Hutch has over the course of his career. I mean, he's the ultimate embodiment of what a Houston Texan football player should look like. His selflessness, his attitude, his work ethic, and his willingness to improve and get better. I mean, he's on pace to have a career year, and it's a result of just his ability to work, focus, take advantage of his opportunities, and put himself in a position, and then players around him have confidence. So I don't think anybody's really surprised about the outcome and the result. I mean, there are 9 skilled players, I think, that each had 1 reception, so good distribution in the overall passing game. So whoever's on the field, we feel confident in their ability to make plays.
Nick, do you feel like it's different from the time you entered the league to now as far as waiting for rookies to contribute and develop? You need them now earlier than ever.
It's a great question, Mark. I think everybody's appetite and propensity for younger players from a staff standpoint, it's always a little bit touch and go, but if those are your best players, you're going to have to live with some ups and downs. Young players are going to make some mistakes. There's going to be things that pop up that they haven't seen before, they haven't dealt with. But if you have confidence and you can just work through some of the growing pains, I mean, that's what this league is about. So good football players come in all different shapes and sizes. They're young players, they're older players, but we have no opposition to playing younger players if they're the best players. It starts with Nico and his mindset. And we put a lot of time and investment into trying to identify players that we draft because we think they're a good fit. Not every player works out the way that we hope, but the more young players we can this league is about younger players. There's a draft every year for a reason. So you're going to have new players come onto the team. So your responsibility as an organization is to try to develop them as quickly as possible. When they're ready to play, they're ready to play. The timetable is different for every player. But I think to your point, you look around the league, there's a lot of young players that are making significant contributions, and it goes back to college. They're playing more football, so they're more prepared. I mean, we'll talk about Bo here in a minute, but Bo played like 4,000 games in college as much as anybody. So he's been able to make the transition to NFL football. So there's certainly a direct correlation when you talk about young players, drafted players, and making an impact maybe earlier than people expect.
A young player that seemingly has gotten better from the minute he set foot here in 2024 till now, Nick. And because his opposite number is a Pro Bowler, he's an All-Pro in Derek Stingley Jr., maybe Kamari doesn't get the respect nationally maybe that he deserves, but it feels like Kamari just plays the next play better than he played the one before. What have you seen from Kamari in just 2 years here?
Yeah, he should get the respect because he's earned it.
Yep.
I mean, this was a player like we absolutely loved coming out of Georgia, and I think there was, well, maybe not fast enough, maybe not big enough. But the bottom line is this guy's a football player. Yeah. And he, like when you go back and talk to Kirby about their program and the mindset and the mentality, how they play and how they practice, I mean, this was the guy.
Yeah.
I mean, there was like no ifs, ands, or buts about it.
Right.
And here's a player, I think they played the bowl game against Florida State or whoever it was. I mean, he could have shut it down and very easily said, I'm not playing. But like he kind of said, screw that, like I'm playing football. And because that's how he operates, that's his mentality. I mean, I think he leads us in tackles. I mean, or he's close.
Yeah.
I mean, how many corners leads their team in tackles? And it's not that like it's tackling a bunch of players 50 yards down the field. Right. I mean, he's as big a part of the run force as anybody. So, I mean, we love everything Kamari Lassiter is all about. We're fortunate. We feel like we have two pretty good corners that we put out there on the field every Sunday, and he continues to get better. He doesn't say squat. He just shows up and works, which is a lot of like we have a lot of players like that in this program.
Yep. Okay, I'm not a stat head, but there is a stat. You're number one in defense in points per game allowed and yards per game. So that's pretty good, number one in both those categories. Is there a category that's more important than the other, or is there another one you like to look at for defense? How do you see it, Nick?
This league's all about points. So can you defend? Can you limit the points? And then can you score enough points on the offensive side of the football? So in the end, winnings are usually about points. So if you can keep the other team off the scoreboard or limit it, and then you can score enough points, more points than the other team, I would say in the end that's probably one of the more important stats. And then the areas that correlate to that, you probably go to red zone, offense, and or defense. And those are areas we can actually improve on both sides of the ball. So there's always room for improvement. But in the end, it's all about points.
Okay, so I'm not going to tell you this to give you a big head or anything, but when I go on the road and I talk to people from other teams, they're like, hey, man, I saw that segment you did with Nick Caserio, and he does the scouting report. Man, that's impressive. So I have a two-parter for you. Number one, could you do that for every team in the league, even if we weren't playing them?
Probably, if I had enough time just to study. I think my process is what I try to do is learn and understand as much about our opponent specifically.
Right.
But when you're watching our opponent, you're doing some crossover work as well. Right. So another player might pop up, or if there's a player on waiver wires, or as we get close to the trade deadline, you have some level of awareness. I mean, hopefully, probably take a little bit of work. Yeah. But I think if I had a day or two to go through it, I probably would be able to, hopefully talk in an educated fashion. That's subject to opinion probably, but talk in an educated fashion about, as many teams as possible.
I figured you could. I figured that was the answer to it. So let's get to the second part. We do play the Broncos. Good football team. Maybe Pat Surtain in and out. We don't know. Don't know what's going to happen with that. But it's a good football team coming here Sunday. Nick, what's the scouting report on the Broncos?
Yeah, great football team, and this is I think it's year 3 for Coach Payton and his program. I mean, Coach Payton's one of the best coaches in the league, and the way they put the team together. I mean, great ownership group. Sean's come in and kind of built a program in his image. George Payton's been there for a little bit. George is a very well-respected executive in this league, so George is a great evaluator of talent. So, good coaching staff. I mean, good coordinators. I mean, Sean calls the plays, but they have a number of coaches that were with him in New Orleans. Joe Lombardi's with him. Davis Webb, quarterback coach, has some experience there. And then a defensive side of the ball, Vance has been as good a defensive coordinator as in the league. And then they hired Darren Rizzi as a special teams coordinator. I mean, you could put Darren up there, the top however many special teams coaches in the league, and he's been doing it for a number of years. So, good ownership group, good coaching staff, and they got a good football team. I mean, top to bottom. I mean, this is, probably as good a football team that, we're going to face. I mean, offensively, Bo's come in and, played really well right away. Played a lot of football like we talked about, smart, accurate, good decision maker. And they do a good job in a passing game of mixing the launch point, mixing the timing. And there's a reason that he hadn't been sacked that much, because they do a good job of getting the ball out on time or structuring some things. And Bo knows where to go with the football. So, I mean, good quarterback. I mean, the 2 running backs have done a really good job. I mean, they're 3rd in the league in rushing as a team. JK, I want to say, is like 3rd in the league. And when JK's been healthy, he's been as productive a back as there is in the league. Drafted Harvey there in the 2nd or 3rd round, and he's given them some positive plays. So 2 good backs. And then they have a really interesting complement of receivers. They're not the same. They're all kind of different, but they all kind of make contributions. From Sutton, Sherfield has his role. They drafted Pat Bryant in the 3rd round. It gives him some size. Franklin is kind of a unique player. Mims is kind of in his own category, which he impacts the kicking game with his, he's a Pro Bowl, basically, returner. And they use all their receivers. So good complement of skill players, tight ends. Ingram, kind of a little bit more of a passing game player. Troutman, a little bit more in a running game. They mix some jumbo, and then the offensive line. It's kind of been the 5 that they've had from the beginning. They've had a shuffle to left guard there a little bit. Big, strong, physical offensive line. That defense, top to bottom. All 3 levels of the defense. They got premium players. 2 good edge players. Benito got a contract extension here, in training camp in the offseason. So leads the league in sacks, or is among the lead leaders in sacks. I think Cooper is probably not talked about as much as they should, because he's a damn good football player on the other side. So 2 good edge players on the inside. DJ Jones, Roach is giving them some snaps. Zach Allen is probably as versatile, kind of a 2-way player as anybody in the league. Singleton, averages 600 tackles a year. Yeah. So, he's a high-volume tackler, very tough, very instinctive. Signed Greenlaw in the offseason. When Dre's healthy, he's one of the better linebackers in the league. In the secondary, you're talking about the defensive player of the year. If he plays or doesn't play, but you got to count for him. Defensive player of the year. Got good contributions from Moss on the other side. The nickel position, they drafted Barron in the 1st round. McMillan's kind of been able to stave him off here a little bit, and they use Barron and dime. And then signed Hufanga, to kind of give them a compliment to Jones at safety. So, top to bottom, this is a really good football team, good staff, good scheme, but certainly presents some challenges. They've been one of the better teams in the 4th quarter scoring margin. So, this game's going to be about just understanding the opponent and then playing the right way. And if we execute, we'll at least give ourselves a shot.
Yep. All right, so you mentioned the New Orleans carryover with some of the staff, Nick. If I put on the tape from New Orleans 15 years ago, I know it's Drew Brees, Hall of Famer, but how similar is it to that?
Similar, different. They've kind of done some things that kind of accentuate some of the things that Bo does well. You probably see a little bit more, I would say, movement of the pocket or plays outside of the pocket. Drew played primarily from the pocket. Drew was one of the smartest quarterbacks, probably in the league. Him, Tom, and Payton, just from the ability to process, get the ball out on time, know where to go with the football. Bo's a little bit more athletic probably than Drew was, so they've done some things that kind of fit what Bo does, but there are some similarities as well from an awareness, instinctiveness, kind of operating a system at a pretty high level, which Bo did as a rookie, and then he's kind of built on that into his 2nd year. So you see some elements, but they've kind of catered it to the Denver Broncos and the personnel that they have on their team.
Defensively, you mentioned Cooper, who that dude's a monster, and then Benito. And they're different. They seem to complement each other pretty well. Like Cooper maybe is a little bit more power-oriented, where Benito has got the twitch and the bend and all that kind of stuff. And you mentioned earlier talking about the game and the protection and using Blake Fisher as a sixth offensive lineman. Is that effective against a couple of rushers like this that you can use Blake in that capacity because he is used to more pass protection against those guys as opposed to a tight end?
Yeah, wherever you're aligned, so whether it's a tackle or tight end, you're probably blocking similar types of players. So you want to look at the matchup, what makes the most sense, what are we trying to accomplish on the play, and then in the end, someone's going to have to account for them or block them. Typically, you're probably not going to have a running back account for players like that, so you have to figure out how do we want to distribute the blockers. But they present problems. I mean, Benito basically can beat anybody on a pass rush. And then Cooper, I mean, is equally as productive. They kind of complement each other. And they basically have 5 down in every play. Right. So you essentially have a one-on-one across the board. So how are you going to handle it? What's the best way to do it? Who's going to be blocking them? You just have to be conscious and aware as you're building the game plan out.
I was thinking about this with Blake. I was actually driving today. And you would know this better than anybody because in the playoff game, when you were with the Patriots that you guys had against the Ravens, where you were declaring Ridley, I think it was Ridley or Vereen, one of them ineligible. And I know they changed the rule after that. Yeah. But if Blake goes in the game and he's got to declare, obviously, can you leave Blake in the game and then switch and put him at tackle and somebody else that was in the game and let them declare? Can you do that?
I want to layer on that. And this might be a stupid question. Why does he have to report at all, Nick? He's a tight end when he comes and he's lining up next to one of the tackles. Unless something's different in the configuration up front, why have to report?
We want to try to help the defense as much as possible so they know who the eligible receivers are. Look, the rules are the rules. So it's more of like everybody having an awareness of who's eligible, who's not.
Right.
So honestly, for the officiating perspective as well, formation alignment. You see this in college football all the time. There's a lot of times it's 4x1, 4x0. It's an unbalanced formation.
Right.
Who's on line of scrimmage, who's off, who's eligible. The playoff game that you alluded to, you know, the rules at the time were the rules. So, I mean, we didn't do anything that was against the rules.
Right, exactly.
It was more of how we deployed the players, and then you have to account for who's eligible, where they're aligned, who can actually get the ball.
Right.
Look, you can have however many eligible players on each play, so part of that is just the rules and the process. So, I mean, a lot of teams are Sean has done it a bunch. He's used jumbo. You see a number of teams kind of using the jumbo situation. It's really a way to kind of complement your tight end and or your overall group.
Sure.
Nick, these days with the trade deadline a little bit later, we're used to that by now, but how has that changed how active your phone might be this time of year?
Yeah, I would say probably over the last week or two, there's probably you're feeling a few more calls. I don't want to say we've talked to just about everybody in the league, and you're really, in the end, all right, who's realistically available? What's the cost associated with it? Because I think sometimes there's reports, oh, so-and-so is available, and then you might call and say, hey, we're just following up, and they'll be like, nah, it's kind of a garbage report. It's like, okay, no problem. At least you have more accurate information. So, all right, who's realistically available? What are your needs? What are you looking for? Is there a match? So, look, we'll see what happens here at the trade deadline, but we've made a number of calls. I would say if anything comes to fruition, it will. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Then we'll move forward with what we have.
Nick, I was thinking about Surtain, and because I was thinking about what happened with Baltimore this week with the whole Lamar Jackson thing and the injury report, and that is obviously something the league is really tied into. When it comes to the injury report, as it pertains to, full participant doubt was probably what they limited and then
questionable, doubtful.
In that situation, he did participate in practice. He just wasn't doing it in a normal vein of what he was. How tough is that to kind of figure out when you're doing the injury report? Like, well, all right, was he really limited today? Was he full? Like, how does that kind of go with the injury report?
If there's any gray, the best thing to do, what we do, is just make sure we verify it with the league. So, again, we're going to be honest. We're going to be transparent. Right. Like, we're going to do the right thing. So, each team's going to handle a little bit differently. Hopefully, everybody understands what the rules and ramifications are. Wednesday, Thursday are kind of one thing. Basically, the guy practiced, or he didn't practice. Right. Was he limited? Was he full? Was he not? And then once you get to Friday, you sort of have to make a declaration about what his availability is for the game based on what happened during the course of the week. Honestly, there's things that could happen on Saturday that change the player's availability. So then
pre-game warm-up sometimes.
Exactly. So we have an obligation to, if something were to change, that's why Omar does a good job of, if we have something change, put the information out there. I would say there's a bigger picture on all this as well, because you have some of the the gambling and some of the other things that
Sure.
are involved. Like, we can like put our head in the sand on all this, but everybody's just looking for information. So our responsibility and obligation is to do the right thing, make sure we have it accurate, and disclose it accordingly. And if there's an issue, then we'll work to get it fixed.
I'm guessing that game plan wise during the week, somebody's limited on the opposing team. You're thinking they're playing.
Yeah,
It's
you're
the safest thing
tracking
to
it.
do, right?
You're tracking it, and if there's anything that tilts it one way or the other, in the end, you're preparing for all 53 guys on the roster. So, okay, if he plays, he plays. If he doesn't play, who potentially could play in his place? Is it going to affect anything that they're doing? So those are all things. That's part of what the advanced scout's job is, to kind of track that during the course of the week for the upcoming opponent and try to figure out what information do we have. Okay, got it. Then when you have the inactives before the game, hey, here are the guys who are out. Here's who's playing. Ready, go.
Nick, it's Legends Week, and also Janice McNair gets inducted into the Ring of Honor at halftime of the Denver game. Your thoughts?
There's nobody more deserving probably in the state of Texas than Miss McNair, and just the opportunity to be recognized and essentially go in the Ring of Honor, with her husband. They've meant everything to the organization. I mean, honestly, she's the first lady of Houston Texans football, and what better ambassador for the NFL and for the Houston Texans than Miss McNair. I mean, certainly grateful to the McNair family and the opportunities they provided for our family, and our job is to try to do the best we can to represent the organization with as much class and dignity as possible, which is what Mrs. McNair has been about like her entire life.
All right, Nick, it's Halloween week, and this is very important information here we're going to get from you because Snickers is
heard that. I just heard that. I didn't even say
Snickers is
anything.
one of our partners here, and that's kind of the
Are you
goat
gonna ask me
candy
if I've
bar.
ever eaten a Snickers?
Well,
Is like one of the questions?
No. The question is, you have
Wait.
to have a Halloween candy.
You might want to start there.
What?
Have you had a Snickers?
Back in the day.
Okay.
I think I
Back
had
in the
one.
day, okay? It's just as good as a meal, really. But the company also makes M&Ms, Twix, Skittles, Milky Way. You tell me. You have to have one of these. What are you going to pick, okay?
What are the options again here?
All right, so you get M&Ms, Twix, Milky Way, Snickers, Skittles. You can also go Skittles, non-chocolate, Starburst. What are you going to have, Nick?
I'll go with the Starburst.
Really?
Yeah.
I'll stick with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
As soon as you went Starburst, I was like, okay,
I'm not a big chocolate fan. Never have been. So anything chocolate related, like, I'm out on.
Wow, okay.
So I know that's like disappointing to a lot of people.
No,
out
it's
there,
fine.
So, yeah, it's a shocking development.
More for
I'm
us.
sure.
Okay, so if you don't like chocolate, how do you feel on candy corn?
Lukewarm.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
lean
better.
Don't
towards-
hate it, but don't
Yeah.
love it, kind of in the middle. You're,
I want to try to keep my teeth intact.
All
so.
right, all right.
See, Johnny's trying to promote candy corn here.
candy corn, like you either love it or you hate it. I love it.
Polarizing, absolutely. Nick, thanks a lot. Good luck this week.
Thanks, fellas.